I sat in my car that night, rain sliding down the windshield, staring at the house I had called home for 8 years. I remembered our wedding day, Lauren in white, how I promised to love her forever. We built what seemed like a perfect life. A stable job as a construction engineer, a cozy house in Columbus, Ohio, a wife I trusted completely. I believed every promise she made. But some secrets, when they surface, do not just shatter trust. They burn down everything you thought was real. Before we begin, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted with your whole heart, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Stay with me until the end of this story, because what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and the person sleeping beside me every night. Lauren and I met 12 years ago at a friend's barbecue in Dublin, Ohio. She was 20 years old, working part-time at a coffee shop while finishing her marketing degree. I was 26, fresh out of engineering school, just starting my career. She laughed at my terrible jokes. She made me feel like the most interesting man in the room. 3 years later, I proposed on a hiking trail in Hocking Hills. She said yes, before I even finished the question. We got married in a small ceremony with about 60 guests. Her parents cried. My mother told me I had found a good one. And for a long time, I believed that was true. 8 years into our marriage, we had settled into a comfortable routine. I worked as a construction engineer, which meant I traveled to job sites 2 or 3 days a week, sometimes to Cincinnati, sometimes to Dayton, occasionally further. Lauren had climbed the ranks at a marketing firm downtown, eventually becoming a content team lead. We talked about kids a few times, but Lauren always said the timing was not right. She wanted to focus on her career first. I respected that. I told myself we had plenty of time. But somewhere in the last year of our marriage, something shifted. I could not pinpoint exactly when it started, but I noticed Lauren becoming distant. She stayed late at the office more often. She guarded her phone like it contained state secrets, always keeping it face down on the table, always taking it with her to the bathroom. When I asked about her day, her answers became shorter. When I reached for her at night, she was already asleep, or at least pretending to be. I told myself I was imagining things. Work was stressful for both of us. Marriage had its seasons. Every couple went through rough patches. I convinced myself that we just needed a vacation, some quality time together, and everything would go back to normal. I was wrong. It was a Thursday evening in mid-October when my world began to crack. I had been working on a commercial project in Cincinnati and finished earlier than expected. Instead of staying overnight as planned, I decided to drive the 2 hours home to surprise Lauren. I stopped at a florist on the way and picked up a bouquet of sunflowers, her favorite. When I walked through the front door around 7:30 p.m., the house was quiet, except for the sound of Lauren's voice coming from our bedroom upstairs. She was on the phone, and she was laughing. Not her polite work laugh, but something softer, more intimate. A laugh I had not heard directed at me in months. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, flowers in hand, listening. I could not make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. It was the way she used to talk to me when we were first dating. When I climbed the stairs and pushed open the bedroom door, Lauren nearly jumped out of her skin. She fumbled with her phone, quickly ending the call. "You scared me," she said, hand on her chest. "I thought you were staying in Cincinnati tonight." "Finished early," I said, handing her the sunflowers. "Who was that on the phone?" "Just a coworker," she said, not meeting my eyes. "We were going over a project deadline." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something in her voice, something in the way she would not look at me, planted a seed of doubt that I could not shake. Over the next few weeks, I started paying closer attention. Lauren changed her phone password. She started going to the gym 4 times a week instead of her usual 2. She bought new clothes, new perfume, things she said were for an upcoming work conference. She was more careful about her appearance than she had been in years. I felt like a paranoid husband, the kind of man I had always promised myself I would never become. But I could not ignore the signs. 3 weeks after that Thursday evening, I got my answer. Lauren had left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. She was in the shower, and I needed to print a document for work. She had told me her laptop password months ago when I needed to access a shared file, so I did not think twice about using it. As I opened the browser, a notification popped up in the corner of the screen. An email from someone with the initials DH. The preview showed just one line. "Last night was incredible. I keep thinking about you." My heart stopped. My hands went cold. For a moment, I could not breathe. I clicked on the notification, and it opened her email inbox. There, buried in a folder labeled Project Files, was a chain of emails dating back 4 months. The sender was Derek Holloway, and based on the email signatures, he was a senior manager at Lauren's company, her direct supervisor. I read email after email, each one more devastating than the last. They wrote about secret dinners, hotel rooms, weekend trips when Lauren had told me she was at conferences. There were photos of them together, selfies taken in restaurants and hotel lobbies, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. One email mentioned Derek's wife, Megan. He wrote about how he had to leave early because Megan was expecting him home for their daughter's school play. Another email talked about his 2 kids, how he felt guilty sometimes, but not enough to stop. I sat there in our kitchen staring at the screen, feeling like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out everything that mattered. The woman I had loved for 12 years, the woman I had built a life with, had been lying to me for months. And she had been doing it with a married man, a man with children, a man who was supposed to be her boss. I do not know how long I sat there. It could have been 5 minutes or 50. When I finally moved, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely operate the trackpad. But I knew what I had to do. I took screenshots of everything. Every email, every photo, every damning piece of evidence. I sent them all to my personal email address, then deleted the sent message from her outbox. When Lauren came out of the shower, wrapped in a towel and smiling like nothing was wrong, I told her I had finished printing my document and was going to grab some dinner. I drove to a parking lot 3 blocks away and sat in my car for 2 hours, reading through the emails again and again, trying to understand how we had gotten here. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. I went through the motions of being a husband while carrying a secret that burned inside me every single day. I watched Lauren get ready for work, kiss me goodbye, and walk out the door, knowing she was going to see him. I lay beside her at night, listening to her breathe, wondering if she was dreaming about Derek. I did not confront her. Not yet. I needed time to think, time to plan. I had read enough stories about messy divorces to know that acting on emotion rarely ended well. If I was going to get through this, I needed to be smart about it. I started documenting everything. I noted the nights Lauren came home late, the weekends she claimed to be at work events. I cross-referenced her stories with the emails I had found, building a timeline of her affair. I discovered that 2 of the business trips she had taken were actually romantic getaways with Derek. One was to a bed and breakfast in Michigan. Another was to a resort in Kentucky. She had used our joint credit card for gas both times, which gave me receipts with dates and locations. The more evidence I gathered, the angrier I became. But I also felt something else, something unexpected. I felt sorry for Derek's wife, Megan. I looked her up on social media and found a woman who seemed genuinely happy. Her profile was filled with photos of her family, her 2 kids, her life with a husband she clearly adored. She had no idea that her perfect life was built on lies. After 2 weeks of gathering evidence, I called my friend Tyler. We had been close since our freshman year at Ohio State, and he had become a divorce attorney with a firm in downtown Columbus. I trusted him completely. We met at a quiet bar near his office. I told him everything, showed him the evidence on my phone. Tyler listened without interrupting his expression, growing darker with every detail. "I am sorry, man," he said when I finished. "This is rough." "I want a divorce," I said. "And I want to make sure I do this right." Tyler nodded. He explained the basics of Ohio divorce law, how property would be divided, what I could expect from the process. He told me that while Ohio was technically a no-fault divorce state, evidence of infidelity could still impact things like spousal support and property division, especially if I could show that marital funds had been used for the affair. "What about telling his wife?" I asked. "Megan. She deserves to know." Tyler considered this carefully. "Legally, there is nothing stopping you. You are not defaming anyone if you are telling the truth with evidence to back it up. But be prepared for it to get ugly. People do crazy things when they are cornered." I thought about that warning a lot over the following days. But I kept coming back to the same conclusion. Megan had a right to know what her husband was doing. If I were in her position, I would want someone to tell me. The following Saturday, Lauren told me she was going to meet an old college friend for dinner. I knew it was a lie because Derek had mentioned in one of his emails that they had plans that night. I did not argue. I just said I hoped she had fun. Once she left, I called my sister Sandra. She lived about an hour away in Springfield, but we talked regularly. She was the person I trusted most in the world besides Tyler. I told her everything. The emails, the photos, the months of lies. Sandra was furious. She wanted to drive down immediately and confront Lauren herself. "Let me handle this," I said. "I have a plan." I explained what I intended to do. The following week, I would meet with Tyler to sign the initial divorce paperwork. Once that was in motion, I would contact Megan Holloway and give her the evidence. Lauren and Derek would have to face the consequences of what they had done. "Good," Sandra said. "They both deserve what is coming to them. That poor woman and her kids." We talked for another 20 minutes, going over details, discussing logistics. Sandra offered to let me stay with her if things got too difficult at home. I told her I appreciated it and would let her know. When I hung up the phone, I felt something close to peace for the first time in weeks. I had a plan. I was taking control of my life again. Then I heard a sound behind me. I turned around, and there was Lauren standing in the doorway of the living room. Her face was white. Her hands were trembling. She had come home early, probably forgotten something, and had heard everything. "You know," she whispered. It was not a question. For a long moment, neither of us moved. We just stared at each other across the living room, 8 years of marriage hanging in the silence between us. Then, Lauren broke. "You cannot do this," she said, her voice rising. "Christopher, you cannot tell his wife. You will destroy everything." "You destroyed everything," I said. My voice was calmer than I expected. "You did that when you decided to sleep with your boss for 4 months?" She started crying, big, heaving sobs that shook her whole body. She crossed the room and grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in hard enough to leave marks. "Please," she begged. "Please, I am sorry. I made a mistake. But if you tell Megan, Derek will lose everything. His job, his family, everything. And I will lose my job too. They will fire both of us." "You should have thought about that before," I said, pulling my arm away. Lauren's tears stopped as quickly as they had started. Her expression shifted from desperate to angry. "This is your fault too," she said. "You were never here. You were always traveling, always working. I was lonely, Christopher. I needed someone, and you were not there." I had expected this. I had read about it online, how cheaters often tried to blame their partners for their own choices. Knowing it was coming did not make it hurt any less, but it also did not work. "I was building a career for us," I said, "for our future, and you were building a relationship with another man. Do not put this on me." Lauren tried a different approach. She got down on her knees, literally kneeling on our living room floor, and begged me not to contact Megan. "I will end it," she promised. I will end it tonight. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. Just please, please do not ruin his life." "What about my life?" I asked. "What about the life you ruined?" She did not have an answer for that. Then came the threat that made my blood run cold. "If you do this," Lauren said, her voice dropping to something hard and flat, "I do not know what I will do to myself. I cannot live with everyone knowing. I cannot face that shame." I pulled out my phone and called Sandra. I told her to come over immediately. Lauren watched me with wide eyes. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Making sure you do not do anything stupid," I said, "and making sure I have a witness." While we waited for Sandra to arrive, Lauren's phone rang. She looked at the screen, and her face went pale again. "Derek." "Do not answer that," she said when I moved toward the phone. I picked it up anyway. "Hey, beautiful," Derek's voice came through the speaker. "Just wanted to hear your voice before bed. Megan is already asleep, so I thought I would—" "This is Christopher," I interrupted. "Lauren's husband. We need to talk." Silence. Then a click as Derek hung up. 2 minutes later, my phone rang from an unknown number. I answered. "Listen to me," Derek said, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. "Whatever you think you know, you need to forget about it. If you try to contact my wife, I will make your life hell. I have connections. I can destroy your career." "You have until Sunday night," I said. "Either you tell Megan yourself, or I will. Your choice." "You do not understand what you are doing," Derek said. "I understand perfectly," I replied. "You slept with my wife for 4 months. You lied to your wife and children. And now, you are going to face the consequences." That is how this works. Derek tried a different approach, his tone shifting from threatening to pleading. "Think about my kids," he said. "They are 7 and 5. Do you want to be responsible for breaking up their family?" "You broke up your family," I said. "I am just showing your wife the truth." I hung up before he could respond. Sandra arrived 20 minutes later. She took one look at Lauren, still sitting on the living room floor with mascara running down her face, and turned to me. "What do you need?" she asked. "I need you to stay here tonight," I said. "I do not want to be alone with her." That night, I slept in the guest room with the door locked. I could hear Lauren crying through the walls, but I felt nothing. The woman I had loved had become a stranger, and I was done trying to save a marriage she had already destroyed. The next morning was Sunday. I did not wait until the evening as I had told Derek. I got in my car and drove to Westerville, a suburb about 15 miles north of Columbus. I had found the Holloway address through public records, a nice house in a quiet neighborhood with a swing set in the backyard. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, gathering my courage. Then I walked up to the front door and rang the bell. Megan answered with a friendly smile. She was pretty with kind eyes and laugh lines that suggested she smiled often. She was wearing a casual sweater and jeans, clearly not expecting visitors. "Can I help you?" she asked. "My name is Christopher," I said. "I need to talk to you about your husband. And I am sorry, because what I have to tell you is going to hurt." Her smile faded. She looked at me for a long moment, something shifting in her eyes. Then she stepped aside and let me in. We sat in her living room. I could hear children playing upstairs, the sounds of a normal Sunday morning. I handed her the envelope I had prepared containing printed copies of the emails, the photos, the hotel receipts. Megan read through them slowly. I watched her face change as the reality sank in. Her hands started shaking. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she did not make a sound. "How long did you know?" she finally asked. "About 3 weeks," I said. "I wanted to be sure before I came to you. I wanted to have proof." She nodded, still staring at the papers in her hands. "Thank you," she whispered, "for telling me. Most people would not have bothered." "You deserve to know," I said. I am sorry I could not give you better news. Footsteps on the stairs. Derek appeared in the living room doorway, and his face went gray when he saw me sitting across from his wife. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. Megan looked up at him. When she spoke, her voice was ice. "Get in the house and close the door. We need to talk." I stood up to leave. Megan walked me to the door. "Good luck," I told her. "Whatever you decide to do." "Good luck to you too," she said. "And thank you again. It takes courage to do what you did." I drove home feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The truth was out. Whatever happened next was out of my hands. The following morning, I met with Tyler and officially filed for divorce. I had Lauren served with papers that afternoon at her office. I figured if she was going to humiliate me, she could experience a taste of public exposure herself. The fallout was swift and brutal. Word spread through Lauren's company about the affair. Human Resources launched an investigation into Derek's conduct, specifically his relationship with a direct report. Within 2 weeks, Derek was terminated for violating company policy. A month later, Lauren resigned, unable to face her colleagues. Megan filed for divorce the same week I did. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she got the house primary custody of the kids and a substantial settlement. Derek moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. My divorce was finalized 4 months after I filed. Because I had documented Lauren's use of our joint finances for her affair, the judge was not sympathetic to her requests for spousal support. I kept the house since I had paid the majority of the mortgage. Lauren moved into a rental apartment and took a job at a smaller company for less money. I never spoke to her again after the divorce was finalized. There was nothing left to say. The months after my divorce were dark. I had won, if you could call it that. But victory felt hollow. The house was too quiet. The bed was too empty. I found myself replaying memories of better times, wondering if any of it had been real, or if Lauren had been pretending the whole time. I did not eat well. I did not sleep well. Some nights, I sat in the living room until 3 or 4 in the morning, just staring at the walls. Sandra came down every other weekend to check on me. She made sure I had food in the refrigerator, made sure I was showering and going to work. She dragged me out of the house, even when I did not want to leave. "You are allowed to grieve," she told me once, "but you are not allowed to disappear." After about 2 months, I started seeing a therapist. Her name was Dr. Patterson, a calm woman in her 50s, who let me talk without judgment. She helped me understand that what I was feeling was normal, that betrayal trauma was real, and recovery took time. I started running again, something I had given up when I got married. I joined a weekend running group that met at a park near my house. The people there did not know my story, did not look at me with pity. They just wanted to run and talk about normal things. It was exactly what I needed. Work became my anchor. I threw myself into projects, taking on extra responsibilities, pushing for promotions I had put off for years. 6 months after the divorce, I was promoted to senior project manager. It was not happiness exactly, but it was forward motion. About 8 months after everything fell apart, I ran into Megan Holloway at a grocery store. I almost did not recognize her at first. She looked different, lighter somehow, despite everything she had been through. "Christopher," she said, smiling when she saw me. "I was hoping I would run into you someday." We stood in the produce section and talked for 20 minutes. She told me she was doing well, that her kids were adjusting, that she had started dating again. She told me that leaving Derek was the best decision she ever made. "I was living in a lie," she said, "and I did not even know it. You gave me the truth, and that gave me my freedom." Before we parted, she thanked me one more time. "You could have just walked away," she said. "A lot of people would have. But you chose to do the right thing, even though it was hard. I will never forget that." That conversation stayed with me for weeks. It helped me realize something important. I had spent months feeling like a victim, like someone whose life had been ruined by forces beyond his control. But the truth was different. When I discovered Lauren's affair, I had a choice. I could have ignored it, could have pretended everything was fine, could have let fear keep me trapped in a marriage built on lies. Instead, I chose the truth. I chose myself. That does not mean it was easy. Recovery is not a straight line. There were setbacks, bad days, moments when the anger and sadness came rushing back. But slowly, gradually, I started to feel like myself again. Not the old version of myself, the one who trusted blindly and believed in forever. A new version, one who understood that love requires more than promises, that trust has to be earned and protected. I do not know what the future holds. Maybe I will fall in love again someday. Maybe I will get married again, build a new life with someone who deserves my loyalty. Or maybe I will stay on my own for a while, learning to be happy with just myself for company. Either way, I know I will be okay. Because here is what I learned from all of this. The truth can be devastating. It can tear apart everything you thought you knew. But living in a lie is worse. A comfortable lie is still a prison, even if you do not see the bars. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. And when you realize that you deserve better than what you are getting, have the courage to walk away. Letting go is not giving up. Sometimes letting go is the bravest thing you can do. It is how you choose yourself, how you reclaim your life, how you open the door to something better. If you are watching this, and you are in a situation where you feel trapped, where you know something is wrong, but you are afraid to face it, I want you to know that you are not alone. The path forward might be painful, but it leads somewhere better. You deserve honesty. You deserve respect. You deserve a love that does not require you to look the other way. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice to protect your own peace? Have you ever discovered a truth that changed everything? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who is going through something similar. If this story touched you, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about love betrayal and finding your way back to yourself. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video with them. Thank you for watching and for being part of this community. I wish you strength in your struggles, courage in your choices, and peace in your heart. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.